Joe Montana here. In my football days, I knew the importance of a strong defense. Now I'm sharing how you can help defend your health against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease. Are you 50 or older like me? The CDC now recommends vaccination against pneumococcal disease. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at increased risk and over 6 times greater risk of hospitalization with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50. Schedule your appointment today at vaxassist.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Still muted.
Dude, I love this theme music. It is good. Better than that shit we had left before. Watch this one.
Well, it is Friday evening. Good evening in America and the world. Welcome to the Sackheads Radio Show.
Why not just say universe?
Hello, universe.
Hello, universe.
To everybody out there that can hear us, which should be everybody all the time, but whatever. Phone number tonight, 347-205-9399. You can hear us through Blog Talk Radio. We're also through the Sackheads site. We're on Showcast. We're pretty much everywhere. You name it, we're out there.
I don't think he's going to call tonight.
I don't know. I tried to get him to. I gave him a very gentle offer. Sorry, Goose.
Thank you.
Both of them.
Both. So I really don't. Well, let's set the tone here. So
hasn't even responded to us on Twitter.
No. So Chris Matthews,
yes,
who our regular listeners know we are at ideological war with.
Well, doy.
And we sent out a tweet, a pretty respectful one, inviting him to call in to the show. And did you remember the specific verbiage?
I believe I said, you're a douchebag.
Okay. Love Sackheads Radio Show.
Love Sackheads Radio Show.
We go live in 35.
So call in and join the show.
Absolutely.
What was wrong with that?
Nothing, because we are going to talk about him specifically in a little bit. But the other individual also.
Oh, Michael Moore.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But
I would love for him to show up in studio, though.
I have a picture of him that I want to show you and then describe it for our listeners. So I was looking at a picture of him and I said, I think I've seen.
Where have I seen him before?
Where have I seen it before? and then it dawned on me. Weird science. When Chet gets turned into the giant blob of poo. And I just showed you a picture. And now put a red baseball cap on that blob of Chet poo. And what do you think?
I think it's dead on.
Dead on. Michael Moore.
Absolutely dead on.
So I don't know what the rights are as far as using the pictures of Chet.
We'll figure it out.
But I think maybe we need to put a red cap on it, and it's a pretty accurate portrayal of Michael Moore.
Well, and we'll get to Chris in a minute.
No, let's talk about Michael Moore right now.
Yeah. So I understand he has an agenda, and he does. He's an uber progressive lefty. He's not in the middle. He's not an old blue dog. He is an over-the-top, so far disgusting, doesn't want anyone to have rights, wants government to kind of run all.
Right, but the thing about Michael Moore is he would never do anything so over the top because he is a lefty progressive.
Right.
So he has to love people, right?
Well, he's made his whole career making movies out of tragedies.
Well, yeah, but that's very Rahm Emanuel-esque, right? Don't ever let a good tragedy go to waste.
Right. And
but he would never advocate to do anything so disrespectful or hurtful to victims of a major event.
No. Well, no,
Well,
that's not true.
except for
Now, where he
for
called
Wednesday
to
on
the,
his blog.
he's hoping somebody will release the crime scene photographs from Sandy Hook tragedy. And that way, because he's pretty much going after the NRA, and he figures if somebody puts those pictures out there,
Right.
then that's it. The NRA is done. Because it would be so horrible. And I'll quote him. This is from his website, not mine. Because if we were to seriously look at 20 slaughtered children, I mean really look at them, with their bodies blown apart, so many of them so unrecognizable that the only way their parents could identify them was by the clothes that they were wearing. What would our excuse not to act? Now, I understand that Sandy Hook has been the spearhead of the gun control recently. And I understand why those who believe in gun control feel that that is a big point to bring up. I don't agree with it, but I understand why they're using that, because it's there, it's simple, it's a big deal. Tons of people were hurt by it, disgusting, awful tragedy. Again, we don't want to blame the person.
It was an act of evil.
Right, we don't want to blame the person that did it. We've been using it to blame guns and everything else.
Right.
So I understand why they use it. I don't agree with it. I understand why the British moron on CNN does it. I get
Remember Yorktown?
Remember Yorktown.
Do you believe that it is okay for him to request that these photos be released, as graphic and as gruesome as they are, and dredge all those memories up to push a political agenda?
No.
Not at all. It's disgusting to me. And it shows the mindset of the liberal progressives, that it's victory at all cost, and their willingness to sacrifice a few, and by a few I'm talking about the families of the children of this horrible tragedy, to have these children, kindergarten kids, with their bodies, as he puts it, blurred. To even have those images out to the public and re-victimize the families of those kids and that community in order to gain political points is absolutely disgusting to me. And I don't think Michael Moore has ever had to personally deal with any kind of major traumatic tragedy of this magnitude.
Well, I doubt it.
Because
I certainly haven't, and I can't say that I had. But I don't think he doesn't care. That's the problem. And as we proved with his,
it's ideology,
right?
And versus
the true facts
or
business taxes. Was stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service.
right. Or the privacy of others, the feelings, all that stuff. So I'm so upset by the fact that this individual would even put this out for political gain that it sickens me, and I'm almost at a loss for words, which is saying something for me.
Yeah, that says a lot to you.
It upsets me that much, the fact that he would even put this out there. And I don't even care if he's doing this just to get, like, we're discussing him right now, so he's getting...
Right, he's getting his free publicity.
Exposure. If that's his intention, I'm going to talk about it because it is that disgusting. I mean, the fact that he would do that, even if he doesn't really mean it,
right,
is disgusting that he would do this for shock value. And it goes back to that whole playbook. Again, I mentioned Rahm Emanuel and his whole ideology about never letting a good tragedy go to waste. This idea of parading victims and using these victims for political gain, and I think he even said in his America Must Not Look Away, didn't he say something to the effect of that it's makes us responsible as Americans because we've done revise or repeal the Second Amendment?
Right.
There's a process in place for that. There is the amendment process to the Constitution, and an amendment has been repealed before. I'm not saying I would support a repeal of the Second Amendment.
I'd do it.
There is a lawful mechanism in place
to do it.
And we can have a discussion about gun rights and all this other stuff without bringing up those types of victims. That's going to be inflammatory regardless of whatever position you're on. It has nothing to do with the gun argument. Look, it's like, okay, so what if somebody brought in horrific photographs of a tragedy where there were children as fatalities? Well, it's going to evoke emotion no matter
what if I started
for the most part. And so what? Let's have an outlaw car debate because they kill people, and look what this incident and what these vehicles did.
What if we start bringing in victims of robberies, rapes, and stuff like that? Said, hey, if these people had a gun, this wouldn't have happened.
Oh,
we'd be crucified.
You know what? Let's talk about this. There's a story out of New York today where an individual, a sex offender, he kills a woman, rapes a 10-year-old daughter out of a New York mall. He was having child pornography. He didn't have any prior record. He's not dangerous, so they released him with an ankle monitor and hang on, and some kind of house arrest or house detention, and with a promise that I won't go near schools or anything else. There is coming out of, I believe it's a gymnastics class with her 10-year-old daughter. The man carjacks the couple, stabs the mother and kills her, and assaults and rapes the 10-year-old girl, who happens to get away, and then flags down a passing motorist, and this guy's taken into custody. If that mother had a gun, maybe she would have been able to stop. This guy had a knife.
Right.
Maybe she would have been able to save her own life and spare her 10-year-old daughter the psychological and physical pain of being sexually abused and raped at 10 years old. So, you know what, you bring up a good point, and I read that story earlier, and it came to mind when you said, exactly that. So what are we going to do? Is if the right is going to play just as dirty at this, are we going to bring up pictures of victims whose lives could have been saved?
Exactly.
By guns?
We'd be lambasted.
Absolutely.
We'd be absolutely lambasted.
Or if we,
and rightfully so.
We line up.
Rightfully so. Right.
Absolutely. What is the right going to do? Line up victims of sex assaults and rapes and heinous crimes so that people could see, they should have had a gun in order to defend themselves.
Well,
sickening.
Unfortunately,
and the right wouldn't do that. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but I'm so passionate about this.
I agree. It should be passionate because it disgusts me, and that's why I wanted to talk about it.
What if the NRA would have brought up and said, hey, you know what, we want these pictures released so that we can show that if an armed guard was on campus,
this couldn't have happened.
So we want to prevent this from happening, so let's release those crime scene photos. What would have happened? The media would have crucified.
Absolutely, it would have been disgusting, and these evil people and blah, 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 and look at them, they're just gun nuts. Our good friend Obama 2016, who joins us just about every week now, is in the chat room.
Hello. I have to say hello. I like Obama 2016.
But I was just going to bring up a point, and he brought it up just before I was going to, is I understand Michael Moore doesn't represent a lot of the left. A lot of the left hate Michael Moore just because he's such an inflammatory douchebag.
The fact that anybody would bring that up just shows such a sick, twisted mentality, and I would even argue cold and calculating.
Very cold and calculating. It's all for personal gain.
Absolutely.
This has nothing to do for protecting anybody. The victims, like you said, it has nothing to do with that. It's all personal gain, so he can be even the 1% that he speaks out against to live in his mansion and have his armed guards and hire non-union employees because union employees cost too much. All the things he says he stands for, that he does the exact opposite, all for person. He's one of the world's biggest douchebags.
He's a Chet.
Yeah, he's Chet. My point that I was bringing up about Obama 2016 is, at least we have intelligent argument with him. He's an intelligent guy.
With 2016?
Yeah. Has not the same opinion we do, obviously, but and not on everything. Some things we've agreed upon.
We agree on.
But he presents his arguments in intelligent manners. He doesn't have to go to the extremes. That's a person, we say it all the time. I will have that discussion with you. Agree with what you want to do. I will sit and have the
But
intelligence.
that's what our country is
supposed to
be.
do.
That's
exactly.
what it's supposed to be about, And you know what? If people in Congress could behave like our like most of our more liberal listeners,
Yeah.
and us, I think we'd actually get a lot more done in this country. Look, we welcome opposing views. That's what our country is supposed to be about. Let's talk about.
Let's have intelligent ideas and discussion and debate
founded in constitutional principles.
Absolutely.
Look, there are absolutely opposing views that are legitimate, good arguments on both sides. But I get so angry.
I want to do things that I can't say I want to do because it'll come back to bite me. So that's my little rant on Michael Mueller this week, and it drives me crazy.
Why stop there? What about our other friend?
No, we're going to get into him. When we get into Chris, when we get into the whole Feinstein-Cruz argument later on, because he is just a whole other insane POS. And that's the only way I can put it. So most people, whether you know or don't know, this week we had the opportunity of going on the Exceptional Conservative Show on Blog Talk and on theconservativeshow.com.
That is an outstanding show. If you haven't had an opportunity to listen to Ken on the Exceptional Conservative Show, he does a phenomenal job. It is an outstanding show. I enjoy listening to him. I enjoy talking with him. He's
a riot, and not only is he intelligent, he makes excellent points.
Excellent points.
He pushes the show along greatly because we went through that 30 minutes like that. We didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
But he's a laugh riot. We were in stitches for half an hour after the segment ended.
Yeah.
We just laughed. So if you have a chance, go to his website, exceptionalconservativeshow.com. He's on Blog Talk. And we'll be posting our portion of the interview on our website, Sackheads Radio. So thanks for Ken, who is in the chat room as we speak, and we'd love to see him.
Oh, welcome. I don't monitor the chat room most of the time because I'm like, I get too sidetracked.
No. You?
Yeah, I know, right? I can do a lot of things if I'm flying an airplane. I can't do anything if I'm sitting at a desk talking into a microphone.
What else is in the news this week? Hey, you remember North Korea?
Gangnam Style guy.
Yeah, the Gangnam Style guy. That's right.
That's he was from the South, right? But he hates America, so it's okay. We'll lump them together.
Well, whatever. Anyhow.
What?
When they made, they dissolved, according to them, their portion of the armistice
poster.
Well, you have to put up in the room. They dissolved their pushes. They made threats to turn us into a sea of fire, all that stuff. The rhetoric. But something's different this time because we've had this kind of rhetoric out of it before, and the government, even last week.
Not to this extreme.
Carney didn't really. He said, well, we're not going to antagonize.
Carney doesn't respond to much.
No, he doesn't.
Carney.
The Carney. Small hands. Smells like cabbage. Nomad, Anyhow, so this week, we've started adding more missiles.
Hell of a
more missiles in our defense shield. And it's funny because a lot of people said, we have nothing to worry about. North Korea is so far away. Iran so far away. We have nothing to worry about. But yet
there's still no technology that could possibly. Oh, wait, yeah, there is. It's called missiles and aircraft.
Hey, why don't we just start putting some defense missiles up? We added more to California. There's more to Alaska, and they put more in South Korea. Isn't that like a weird signal that I just threw my notes all over the floor. Isn't that a weird signal that the administration doesn't say a lot about this when it was happening? Hot and heavy. And I'm not saying they tried to sneak it in, because they certainly didn't try to sneak it in.
No, of course not. They would never.
But
anyway, it's weird. Did you see Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel unveiled today a $1 billion plan in order to beef up this missile defense system?
Really?
Yes. But
I thought we didn't need it.
Well, no. Why? Part of the plan is they want to commit 14 additional interceptors, aircraft, at Fort Greely, which is in Alaska. They also want to send a radar system to Japan. And the goal on this is to have this completed by the year 2017. Again, it's a $1 billion price tag on this. But what's interesting is these 14 extra interceptors, which are there in order to intercept like an intercontinental ballistic missile attack.
Right.
That would bring the total at that base to 44 interceptors. There's currently 30 there now. And this plan was originally put forth by the Bush administration, which, as anybody who listens to this show knows, that, hey, we agree with some of the things the Bush administration did, some things we don't agree with. Look, they added a bunch of debt, and hey, look, I get it. I'm on board with some of the left about the debt that Bush added and so forth.
Absolutely.
But don't be hypocrites and say that what Obama's doing now is fine. But I get sidetracked. But this plan Bush originally put forth would have had 44 interceptors there. There were 30 interceptors that were delivered and in place by the time President Obama took office. And President Obama stopped the deployment of additional interceptors.
Weird. Why would he?
So now we're kind of behind the 8 ball on this and have to get back up to speed to get the remainder of those aircraft in place. I just thought it was kind of interesting.
It's just a weird time to do it. If we have nothing to worry about and the administration says nothing, and then all of a sudden hey, by the way, we should probably increase our defense shield because maybe they can hit the West Coast.
Yeah, and not only that, but the original threat.
And even if it's not nukes, it could be chemical. I mean, there's other. We automatically think nukes because that's the biggest, and that's what the ICBM defense is designed for per se. But if they have the missile that can make the distance.
You know what I picture? I picture Kim Jong-un on like the Acme rocket, like Wile E. Coyote was.
Beep, beep.
Yeah, like flying across over to the U.S. Well, the other thing that is interesting is the fact that they're putting more of these missile defense systems in place would seem to suggest that they're worried about a multiple missile strike.
Yeah.
Instead of just the one missile, the singular rogue missile from North Korea, it seems like they're potentially concerned about multiple missiles, which is obviously concerning. And the president has been oddly silent on this.
Hey,
I would think if somebody threatens to turn the United States into a sea of fire
and nuke us and all that stuff, and then our ally just pretty mumuch call them out and say that they've ended the armistice, they're back to war. I understand that country does a lot of posturing, and I understand it's been a lot of empty threats in the past.
But this administration is taking them seriously if they're
right. That's my point. You can't say on one hand, we're going to ignore them, they'll go away, and we're just going to hit them with more sanctions. And then on the other hand, say, but we're going to probably get some, just in case we're a little wrong. Because let's face it, North Korea is one of those countries we don't get a lot of intel on.
Let's take it to the schoolyard. Okay, think back to when you were in junior high. If you're in 7th grade,
I'll be under the table crying.
If that 9th grader said, "I'm going to kick your ass," would you wait for that 9th grader to throw a punch, or would you take him at his word?
No, exactly. I'd take him at his word.
And you'd probably dump him, right? So, what are we doing?
I know. We're going to punch him. No?
No?
Oh. Well, I guess we're going to wait till we get punched in the face, and then we'll punch back.
No, we won't.
Look,
we talked about the Russians sending
the bear
bombers to our airspace and clear submarine to our waters in the Gulf, and at least publicly the administration doesn't do anything. Now, look, I'll admit I have no idea what they're doing behind closed doors about these things, but I would hope that any president, not just this administration, any administration, I would hope that if a country threatens to turn us into a sea of fire and threaten us with a preemptive nuclear strike, that raises concern among American citizens, at least those that are paying attention, I would think.
Yeah.
It raises my concern, and I know it raises your concern.
It certainly raises
upon the look on Sacco's face. He's alarmed.
Well, I can tell just by looking at him. I mean,
that's the latest Archie comic. Never mind.
he almost lost it right there.
Jughead must have done something stupid.
Don't.
So I would hope that I would wish that a president would take kind of a leadership position and talk to the American people about this. Hey, you know what? I don't care if it's 10 minutes on news stations saying, look, this individual threatened to turn us into a sea of fire. We are well aware of what's going on. We're taking steps to verify if the threat is legitimate. We're taking steps to protect ourselves. Your government is working on this situation. We take all threats against our security and our homeland very, very seriously. And, thank you. Something. Address us.
Or just come out. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. Just come out and address us. Don't just sit there and be quiet. Or barely answer a half question. I mean, when another country says that has potential nuclear capability says we're going to bomb you, and your response is this.
Yeah.
That's not really comforting.
That's the Carney at a news conference.
That is the Carney conference.
Anytime he's asked a difficult question.
So, we'll see what's going to happen. Obviously, listen, I think one of the biggest things that's different from before is we don't know what this guy's able to do. He's crazy. We all know.
Why are we not taking him at his word? I think the administration is, somewhat at least, because they're making moves, but I don't feel like they're coming out to the American people and kind of letting us know.
Just be forthcoming with what's going on.
What's going on. To a certain extent, hey, I can't get into all the details, but you know what? We're addressing this. We take Kim Jong-un at his word.
Well, why shouldn't we? Other than the fact that he's crazy, why shouldn't we?
Which makes it that much worse.
Yeah.
If he is crazy, I don't know. I don't know what his psychological status is. I have to believe that he is overzealous, to say the least.
Partially insane.
I don't know. I can't make that clinical statement, but there's something there. Look, I don't remember the Russians during the Cold War posturing to the point where they outright say, we're going to turn you into a sea of fire. And I remember the Russian government was extremely upset when Ronald Reagan came out and called them the evil empire.
Yeah, absolutely.
And put them on high alert. There was a big build-up, and things were really, really tense, probably the closest point during the Cold War that we were to actually going to nuclear war or to all-out war in Europe with the Soviet Union. And I don't recall, and I could be wrong, I don't recall them ever coming out and saying something like that.
I don't recall it being that direct at all.
But I also believe that the Soviets were worried about a preemptive strike on them, like Hitler did to them. They had a peace accord with Hitler, and the Germans ended up invading Russia in World War II.
Right.
Took them off guard. They were embarrassed by that. They didn't want to get caught off guard again. They thought America might do that for them. So I kind of understand their standoffish posture, I guess, with America at the time. But I still don't recall them
actually outright threatening us
like that. And that's even after the Korean Air Flight got shot down.
Yeah.
Accidentally. It drifted into their airspace.
Well, and we talked about that about a month ago. So, well, listen, before we go to break, we have a couple calls on hold, so we'll try to get to them. First one's going to be Marcos, and he wants to question how the missiles are affecting our economy. So, Marcos, go ahead with your question or your statement.
Right. I want to talk about the American economy and how it pertains to the missiles that are being created, and not only created but threatening the lives of people worldwide. I feel that, with such great...
Which missiles?
Oh.
North Korea's or ours?
Oh, the Barack Obama's circumcised missile. And, hold on.
It's circumcised missile?
Nope, jackass caller.
What did he say?
Apparently, Barack Obama's circumcised. This caller, Marcos, apparently knows. So
that Barack Obama is circumcised.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, next caller. Look, we're not going to put you on the air and let you talk about the president being circumcised, anything like that.
Hi there.
So, Michael,
hello.
You have a question for North Korea?
Yeah, that was a bit weird. My question is that with the recent missile launch in the Sea of Japan, and as well as the recent threats against both the South Koreans and the United States, who do you think will strike first? It sounds pretty sure to happen at the moment. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen?
That's a good question. We talked about it before. Obviously, and thanks for your call, Michael, because we're going to go into the break after we answer this.
I think if North Korea is going to strike, I don't believe their first move is just going to be to launch a missile right into the United States.
No, they're going to go after the South.
Yeah, they're going to go after the South. Their goal is to unify Korea, the Korean Peninsula, under a communist rule. They want one Korea again instead of this divided North and South. I believe that North Korea will attack South Korea if it's actually going to go to war. I believe they'll attack the South, and if the U.S. gets involved, I think they're using that threat to try and maybe scare the United States or maybe this president into inaction.
Yeah.
So maybe just say, hey, we're going to turn you into a sea of fire trying to keep us out of the war with South Korea, because, I mean, let's face it, unless China, which I don't believe they will, but unless China or Russia gets involved, North Korea can't win a war against the United States in our industrial might.
I think they want. I almost think they want to be the victims. They want to launch the first attack so they get leveled, and then they get the same thing that we usually do with every single country that we involve ourselves with. We rebuild the hell out of them, and we dump all of our money into them, and then all of a sudden, 10, 15, 20 years from now, they turn around, throw their finger up at us, and use our money against us again.
That's never happened.
We're going to go. We're going to take a break.
Okay.
We'll
Good
be back.
question. Thank you for that.
We'll be back after. We're going to pick up the last few calls with North Korea before we go on. So we're back in a minute with Sackheads Radio.
Hey folks, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for making this country and our communities a better and safer place. God bless.
Hello, I'm Ashley, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Dr. Larry Arnn on why the Constitution limits government.
James Madison writes in Federalist 51 that men are not angels. Their passions and self-interest often get the better of their reason and sense of justice. So we need government in order to protect our rights against those who would take them away. But for the same reason, Madison writes, government must be limited, because people in government have passions and interests too. Many Americans today forget this, supposing that we can do away with constitutional limits on government, supposing that the unelected bureaucrats being put in charge of our health care, for example, will rule as if they are angels. If Madison was correct about human nature, this is foolish and dangerous.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Sarah Marie Brenner. You know, we often talk on the Brenner Brief about the fact that there really needs to be an organization to help people at the local level who are interested in running for things like school boards, city council, and other local offices. Well, I think I finally have the solution for you, at least for you women out there. It's called Politigal Network, POLITIGAL Network.com. Their website's going to be launching mid-August, but they're already on Twitter at PolitigalUSA. I encourage you to follow them and become a member. Their goal is to be the #1 resource for conservative women. So if you love freedom, liberty, the United States of America, and politics, check out PolitigalNetwork.com or Twitter at PolitigalUSA.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I want to talk to you a minute about our friends over at HomefrontHugs.com. They're an amazing organization of volunteers who take their time, effort, and money to take care of our troops overseas as they serve our great nation. HomefrontHugs.com. You can donate, write letters to troops, adopt a troop, you name it, you can do it. Help those wonderful folks who protect our freedoms. Go to HomefrontHugs.com. Tell them Sackheads Radio sent you.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
And we are back. Thanks for joining us here on the Friday Night Fiasco, SackheadsRadio.com. Phone number is 347-205-9399. Mickey had a question about North Korea. Mickey?
Yeah.
Mickey, you with us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
You have to speak up.
Okay. I am a foreign exchange student from North Korea. Your talk show maybe is a little bit racist, to North Korea.
Racist why? Why are we racist? Because we think North Korea, the leader Kim Jong-un, is crazy that he's threatened to attack the United States with missiles and turn us into a sea of fire?
He's not crazy. You misunderstand.
So you agree that North Korea should engage in a preemptive nuclear strike against the United States?
The United States.
You're in the United States getting an education, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're using the United States to get an education, which is good. I congratulate you for that. Do you think that your leader, as a world leader of an industrialized nation, make a statement that he is going to turn another nation of innocent civilians into a sea of fire? Do you think that's an appropriate threat to make?
Well, because, America is also speak softly and carry big stick. You have to.
Listen.
Put her back on.
No.
That's great.
No.
Because America cares. So because
I'm not going to sit there.
We are willing. Hang on. Because we are willing to carry a big stick, which that was a slogan from the president a long time ago.
Well, that just gave some information.
Because we have military capability to where we are able to defend ourselves, which is actually that the federal government is supposed to do.
That's one of the few things that they're supposed to do.
Because we are in a position to defend ourselves, and those other nations in a position that may not be able to defend themselves. And look, we can engage in a debate on whether we should be in foreign countries or not, and that's a debate I'd love to have with anybody, because, hey, some countries, we have no business in. But I don't care what the reason is. You don't threaten nuclear strike against another country. I mean, unless there's a provoked reason. And the United States has done nothing to provoke North Korea. We haven't threatened North Korea.
People are going to go.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
If America is such a horrible country to where you believe that a leader can make a statement because America did something wrong and deserves to be threatened with innocent people getting killed or being affected by a nuclear fallout from a nuclear strike and being thrown into the sea of fire, then maybe you should get your education elsewhere, because this is a country where we welcome all people who want to immigrate legally and come here and become Americans and be American citizens, enjoy this country. We welcome those people. But if you're here and you're getting an education and you don't like this country and you support what your leader said about turning an innocent country into a sea of fire, then why are you even here studying in this country that
you're trying to make sense out of it?
And why are we racist? Because we don't like being threatened. Aren't the South Koreans the same race as the North Koreans?
No, they're from the South.
Oh, so we're racist against the North Koreans, but not the South Koreans. Got it. Thank you for the call. Next caller.
We're going to take Bobby in here. Bobby had what the president's role in all of this was. Bobby, on the radio.
Hello. Well, my question sort of has two parts of it. The first part kind of connects to the first, so second kind of connects to the first. So if you could just kind of listen through it and give me like some kind of answer for this, because I really need one. So the president of the United States, I mean, this is the first part of the question. Like, he's definitely got a hand in this. He's definitely part of why we're here. I mean, he's the president. He has control over pretty much everything. And then my second part of the question is, I mean, if he has a control over everything and he's doing a bad job, why don't we fuck the nigga, kill the nigga, kill.
Okay. First of all, we don't allow that kind of language on our show.
We don't accept it. We don't even. That's ridiculous.
But I think I maybe understand the question. First part of the question. No, he's the president of the United States, correct, but no, he is not in charge of everything. Constitutionally, he only has specific duties outlined to him. He's the executive, but Congress has a responsibility, as does the judiciary, and he does have a fair amount of power. Some would argue too much power, because constitutionally he's not supposed to have as much power as the president does today. But I digress. So he has some power, but power lays in other branches of government as well.
That's why it's supposed to be a balance.
But he does not control everything, and so the fact that we're in this financial situation, if I understood the gist of the question before the inappropriate rhetoric started flying, because it takes Congress to act also. The president cannot just unilaterally enact legislation as much as he or she would like to. Bill Gates was on a show saying he wished the president had more power like England. Hey, Bill, go open up an office in England. Go have at it.
Yeah, feel free.
But the president cannot act unilaterally. It's unconstitutional for him to do so. And so he has to act with Congress on certain things, which is why even though he wanted to push health care, Congress had to pass it. He had to sign it into law. He can post legislation, I guess, or give ideas for legislation, but Congress has to vote on that legislation, bring it to the floor, go through the process before the president signs it into law. So I don't know if that answered the question or not. Do we have another caller waiting?
No.
Okay.
I don't feel like taking any right now.
Perfect.
I know it's going to aggravate some people, but what the hell? It's our show. We do what we want.
It's our show.
Hey, you remember that, oh, God, what was that incident back in September, or somewhere between, like, the 8th and the 12th?
Incident,
something,
September. Oh, before the
there was
election.
some publicity thing.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't very public because it totally got swept under the rug.
Been something.
Benghazi?
Benghazi, Taco. Glad one of us is paying attention. Well, you remember how that went away? It was quieted down before the election. No, not by us, but a lot of the media has just kind of dumped that and not let anything happen. So Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, who we're not exactly a huge fan of.
No, we're not huge fans. As a matter of fact, he's up for a primary, I think, next year, and I hope he loses his primary. But anyways.
He had an interview with Fox News, and he essentially said the bottom line, they feel like they can't come forth, meaning the living victims from 9/11 in Benghazi. They've been told to be quiet, is what he's alleging, to which Jay Carney responded, I'm sure that the White House is not preventing anyone from speaking. Well,
the White House can't because it's a building. Very clever, Carney. Very clever. So he's telling the truth.
It does, but it does bear a question, where are the survivors from Benghazi? Why haven't they come forward? Why has their story not been told? And what should we be demanding from our government regarding this? For me, I feel like it's all too convenient that none of them have gone anywhere near the media or told their story or spoken in front of Congress as far as I've known. Listen, if it was part of an ongoing investigation, they were sequestered, if you will, or everyone knew who they were, but they would talk about it, all that stuff. I understand that. But right now, they just disappeared after 9/11.
Look, here's the interesting thing. First of all, the Carney's response when asked, it wasn't. It says no. There's absolutely no way. The White House is not preventing anybody from talking about this. This is ridiculous. What he says is, I'm sure the White House is not preventing anyone from speaking. Right? Kind of a soft denial.
Right.
As to
there is no way.
Legitimately, what are you accusing us of? No, we're not preventing anybody. You know, you have a firm denial. So I found that kind of interesting. It was more of a soft denial as opposed to, hey, you're being accused by a Republican senator that you really don't like anyways of basically
that we really don't
like anyways. So have at him. No, I'm kidding. You're being accused basically of assisting in some kind of cover-up. And if you were really innocent, typically that would tend to anger you, I would think. But he doesn't. He says, I'm sure the White House is not preventing anyone from speaking. I found that very interesting. What should we demand? Look, I think that there's hearings that have tried to have been hold. And unfortunately, I think we're in this mess where the politicians, right and left, are not going after the truth.
Right.
The left is trying to save political face, and the right is using it in some respects as political leverage, which I disagree with. Look, we had an ambassador, a United States ambassador, killed. We had an attack on a United States embassy, which is an act of war, if I'm not mistaken. We had an attack on a United States embassy. We lost a diplomat. Not only that, but we lost 2 Navy SEALs. We lost. I would think that both sides of the political aisle would want to know the truth so that we can prevent these types of events from happening. And the public should be demanding it. Look, this was our embassy. This was our ambassador. This was an attack against our nation. We have a right and an obligation to keep an eye on the government and to find out what's going on with this. How are we going to ensure this doesn't happen again? But that's not happening. Posturing on both sides, and it bothers me. I wish that during some of these hearings, when Secretary Clinton was testifying, or former Secretary Clinton was testifying, and even afterwards, you had a lot of the Democrats that were really kind of lockstep in with the administration, and the Republicans that were completely going after her in a lot of sense. And I think it's sad that we can't even have bipartisanship with an issue like this.
Right.
So I think what do we demand as an American people? I think we demand that both sides of the political. I think we demand that the Democrats stop stonewalling and going along with this political agenda. And I don't think it'll happen, but I think that's what needs to be demanded. And I think that likewise the Republicans need to tell their elected officials, hey, listen, this is not political leverage. We need to get at the truth. Now the Republicans say, oh, we are trying to get at the truth. And Republican talk show hosts may say, oh, they are trying to get at the truth. Well, look, they are using this as political leverage. And I get it. That's how the game's played. The Democrats are trying to protect their interests. The Republicans are trying to exploit it because they want to take seats in the Senate. I get it. In this case, it's not right. Okay? In this case, I think politics need to be put aside, and we need to find out the truth to see what truly happened to these brave Americans who were defending American lives and lost theirs as a result.
And an ambassador who died for his cause.
For his country. He died serving America, whether it was part of an Obama administration that we disagree with.
That doesn't matter. I don't care.
It doesn't matter. It's an American.
It doesn't matter.
It's an American citizen.
You know, the fact that, listen, we got mad that the White House was given a pass on the whole video thing, and for so long, and by the media and by a lot of people in general, a lot of people like, there's no way that would happen. They wouldn't possibly do. Oh, wait, they did? Oh, it came out that they knew right away?
Oh.
Right. So we need to get
we need to get mad. No, we can't get mad on that because that would make them look bad.
We need to get the rest of the story at this point. Benghazi should not go away. We learn from our mistakes, whether we willingly made them or accidentally made them. I said before, if the White House came out immediately and said, hey, you know what, we got caught. We didn't think it was going to happen, or the planning or the intel or whatever, but we got caught. If they had come out and said that, I would feel for them in a way, because that's all right. You owned your mistake. You probably feel awful. And I'm not saying they don't feel awful, but when you come out and you say, hey, it was some video, and people are testifying later that you knew while it was going on that it wasn't at all involved in a video, it was an actual attack from Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda affiliates, and you keep going with that, and you have Ambassador Rice out there on 5 different talk shows, and that whole thing, we all know it happened. It's that point that people should be saying, hey, you know what? We do need the whole story. We need to listen to these victims. We need to find out what happened there, what they knew, who knew what. If that means they should be in front of a congressional hearing, giving their piece by piece exactly what happened, to keep this from ever happening again, that needs to be done. But if we can have the now former Secretary of State testify, why can't we have these folks testify?
Well, what about this? The Space Shuttle Challenger blew up, and a commission was formed.
Absolutely.
Space Shuttle Columbia was destroyed on re-entry.
A commission
was formed, and that's 7 astronaut lives each time. A tragedy.
Very much.
We had an attack on U.S. soil where 2 Navy SEALs and the United States ambassador lost their lives. Where's the commission?
I don't understand why. All the other stuff that this Congress wastes time with, and this administration and our country waste time on, and we can't have a commission and an inquiry on a legitimate, scary issue.
I would have so much respect. I would have more respect for this administration. It comes back to principles, which we talk about on the show all the time. We need to have principled leaders in office, and principled and I get upset with this stuff. I shouldn't let this stuff get to me personally, but it does. If this administration, any administration, this administration would have come forward and said, hey, you know what? We made a mistake. Yes, we had the intel this was going on in real time. We didn't believe it would go as far as it did. We believed that the firefight would peter out by the time we could get air support in there. We made a mistake by not pulling the trigger and allowing teams to go in while that Navy SEAL was lasing the target from his position. I would think that, first of all, the American public would say, oh, you know what? They're human. They make mistakes. I mean, granted, we don't expect our leaders to make those types of mistakes, but they made a mistake. They're human. I can see the American public being more understanding of that than if it does come out. How's the American public going to react if it does come out that this was covered up by this administration? Now, Obama doesn't have to face another re-election.
No, he's done.
But the Democrats do. The Democrats are going to run somebody, either Uncle Jim or Hillary. They're going to run somebody next cycle, and they're going to have to answer to this. Same with the 2014 elections, where the Senate has how many Democrat seats that are actually that are exposed right now?
A lot.
Where the Republicans, I think 10 or something, where the Republicans could take control of the Senate.
Right, and that would be a big deal going into the 2014. So they have to save face somehow, and they're not doing it this way. They're not doing it, in my opinion, by stonewalling on this.
But like we talked about, this shouldn't be an issue of saving face or politics.
Exactly.
This is an American issue,
and it's a major issue.
Just like the gun debate.
Yeah,
it's an American issue. Now that the gun debate, I can see, having opposing views, which we may disagree or what. I don't see how this should be politicized by either side, by either party.
No, we should just be given the facts on it. So I don't know.
Let's hold our breath and see what happens. Don't do it.
Well, and of all people, like I said, I don't like Lindsey Graham. I am not a fan. He bothers me on so many different levels.
His name's Lindsey.
I don't care about that.
Yeah, you do. We were just making fun of it before the show. It's like a hat.
But it kills me that he's really one of the only ones coming out and saying, hey, what the hell? And there's a lot of other people.
But that's what makes me even more curious about is he using this for political leverage, because he is one coming out, but he's facing a primary in 2014.
I know
he knows that a lot of the conservatives are against him because of the things he's caved on and some of the things since he's been in his position. So I'm wondering how much of this is for him to say when he is facing that primary, hey, I was calling the administration out on Benghazi. I'm going after them. I'm a watchdog. I'm a real conservative. And again, I think he's using it for political gain, which I have a problem with.
Well, and I know he was pretty stern when this first happened, and then it went away, and now he's starting to bring it back again. If he'd stayed on it the entire time, and he was like, hey, why aren't we still hearing about Benghazi? This is ridiculous. And, I'm with you. I think this is totally for political gain. I wish it wasn't for political gain. I wish I could just sit here and say, you know what, he's doing the right thing because that's his job. And as we all know, senators who do their job still get lambasted in this country that we'll talk about soon.
What are you talking about? That's weird. But some senators have been on this committee for 20 years. They don't need a lecture, though. What?
Maybe that's the problem.
You took my line.
Really?
Yeah.
What else is new? Not a big deal. So I hope something happens with it soon. I hope we actually find out all of the facts finally, and not just some of the facts and something.
Think we will?
Window.
Eventually?
After 2014.
I don't think so, because the Democrats are going to want to maintain power for 2016.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think maybe after 2014, either the president or Jumbo Joe, Slack Jaw Joe, Shotgun Joe.
Uncle Joe.
Unky Joe.
Uncle Shotgun Joe.
Will take all the blame for it. So there's that one person of, hey, I screwed up. This was all my fault. I really should have done that differently. I'm sorry. I know people died and we lied, so to speak. Just terrible. And blame me, though. Nobody else really knew what was going on but me. And it certainly wasn't Hillary because she's running. And we can't have her looking bad in front of everyone. So you want to direct that on over at me? That'd be outstanding. Thanks. That's just my opinion.
By the way, I'm retiring.
I'm getting out of the game. It's proven a little too stressful.
Nothing to see here.
Really, Joe?
Problems. I'm gonna retire. It's nice.
Really, Joe? It's stressful all of a sudden? Because I haven't seen you do a thing of work yet.
How Botox do you think his forehead?
Oh, it's getting worse. Listen, it's I hate to go this route with stuff, but
Don't do it,
man, he just looks awful.
He's good for comedy, though.
He is good for comedy. I don't like him as a person. I think he's a jerk in real life, and I've said that time and again.
Are you kidding me? You would love to sit down and have a beer with that guy.
There's a lot of people who I think are jerks that I'd sit down and have a beer with and have a discussion with. Joe is on that list.
Okay.
Because Saka's on that list too. But only because I could picture that ending with Joe knocking somebody out in the bar or taking a poke at somebody.
Joe would get blackout drunk. Are you kidding me?
He's sitting on the bartender like he was in that just before the election when he was in that restaurant and he had his ear tucked into the biker girl's ear, like just whistling. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? You're the vice president. You think nobody's watching you right now? You're in a Waffle House in the middle of Kentucky. You have a motorcade. There's 5,000 photographers here, and you have some little thing in a motorcycle outfit on your lap. You have this big crap-eating grin on your face, and you're nuzzling her, dude.
You've got your Born to Lose tattoo on your forehead.
But here is the beauty of Biden. Everyone went, it's just Joe. Nobody was like, what a scumbag. He's a married man. How could he possibly? Nope, he got it's just Joe. Son of a. How does he do that? He is he's almost better than Clinton at stuff like that.
I think he is better than Clinton.
I mean, the Teflon VP stuff is just rolling off him left and right. He says the stupidest things in the world, the whole shotgun.
Do you think he was like Billy Madison?
Yes.
Do you think like his dad was like, Joe, you need to go back to school if you want to go into politics?
Yeah,
and
seriously.
be vice president one day.
We'll get you through quote unquote school, but we want you to be vice president one day. Oh man, and then just
go to the mailbox to check for his girly magazine.
Yeah, just some of the things that he has said in the past and walked without a problem. They're going to put you all back in chains. That statement alone, if anyone else had said that, even if they were completely left progressives, if anyone else had said that, there would be uproar, riots in the street. People would be like, you can't say that. Joe says it, and they're like, just Joe.
Just Joe. His boss is black. I mean, come on.
Right, he can't really mean that.
Can't mean that. And you know what? I think the beauty of it is Joe could probably really totally say, yeah, well, I knew about Benghazi was happening. I flubbed it, and people, yeah, it's Joe.
Okay, well, hey, what?
I'm going to retire now. See you later.
I'm not even going to retire. I'm going to stay in office, and you don't care. And you know why you don't care? Because I'm going to come out and say something funny, and you're all going to laugh, and it's going to, like with healthcare. Hey, you know what? This is a big effing deal. In front of the entire world in a major press conference.
You know what?
He drops
I like
F-bomb.
that. I like that. I thought that was funny. I
think it's funny, too.
There were some people on the right that made a big deal of that. I didn't care. I was like, hey, you know what? Because for him, it is a big effing deal.
Right. No, that's what he ran on. It was a big deal for him. I don't agree with it, but it was a big deal. Just the fact that he can go out there, say it in front of the entire world. Everybody was watching that night. Whether you agreed or disagreed, you were watching because you wanted to hear the president's reaction.
Yeah, but you know what? He was trying to keep it quiet.
And he was trying to keep it light.
And that's,
he was trying to get the president going. I understand that part of it, but just the fact that he can go on national TV and silently drop the F-bomb, and everyone just laughed it off. I'm like, man, come on. I wish I was Joe. I wish I was Joe in my life.
Hey, Joe. We're up against a break.
We are.
When we come back, we're going to talk CPAC. Stick with us.
All right, Sackheads Radio.
Oh, Neil, it's great to be with you. Listen, other senators can choose to hurl
I'm Lori, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Dr. Larry Arnn on how the founders viewed God as the source of our equality and legal rights.
America's founders knew, obviously, that human beings are not equal in terms of strength or beauty, or in terms of intelligence, industry, or talents. They understood that because of such differences in talents and things like that, some people would be wealthier than others. But human beings are equal, the founders believe, in their possession of natural rights, such as the rights to life, liberty, and property. Today, many Americans reject this equality of rights in order to pursue equality of condition through redistribution, or spreading the wealth around, to use a famous formulation. This is destructive of liberty as the founders understood it.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at conservativeoutcry.net, but I really mean it. If you want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis, that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. conservativeoutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on conservativeoutcry.net.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
Hi, this is Sarah Marie Brenner. You know, we often talk on the Brenner Brief about the fact that there really needs to be an organization to help people at the local level who are interested in running for things like school boards, city council, and other local offices. Well, I think I finally have the solution for you, at least for you women out there. It's called Politigal Network, Politigal Network.com. Their website's going to be launching mid-August, but they're already on Twitter at PolitigalUSA. I encourage you to follow them and become a member. Their goal is to be the #1 resource for conservative women. So if you love freedom, liberty, the United States of America, and politics, check out PolitigalNetwork.com or Twitter at PolitigalUSA.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
Welcome back.
We are back.
So, interesting week. CPAC?
CPAC was here, and now it's gone. I think it goes through tomorrow.
We have some clips we'd like to play and comment on it. Who do you think is the up and comer in the GOP?
Well, I mean,
I know it's too early to tell or talk about 2016 runs.
For what, the end game?
Yeah, who do you think's the up and comer? Who do you think's coming out 2016? What's your ticket? What's your prediction?
I think Rand Paul's going to make a run for it.
I think so too. I think he should.
I think he should too. I actually, the more I listen to Rand Paul, the more I like Rand Paul.
Yeah.
He's a little bit more
because he'll get the conservative vote, but
and
he'll also get those independents, real libertarian.
Yeah.
He'll also get those independents who like to smoke weed, so that's a good thing for you.
He actually will get the weed libertarians. And I think a lot of straight independent, non-libertarian independents can connect with him.
Straight ones now. What do you mean?
Oh, stop it.
No, I don't know.
People do behind their doors I could kill less.
I know, but you made that say.
No. Like straightforward independents, not libertarian independents. Just those who don't choose a party affiliation. They actually vote the person, which I actually applaud them for in a lot of ways.
I applaud them for that, absolutely.
But I think he connects with them. I think people like how he approaches things. He's not afraid, but he's not a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
He's intelligent. I think
he has sound arguments for his positions. He's able to back his positions up.
Absolutely, and I think he will reach across the aisle when it's time and not give up his principles, but work with the other side to come to a conclusion that everyone can agree on. So I like Rand Paul. I think, that the whole filibuster, the 13-hour filibuster, I mean, just that shows you the length that he will go to try to do the right thing, what's right in his opinion. Whether or not you agree or disagree, you could at least say that he's dedicated and he sticks to his guns, he sticks to his principles, and he's an all-in. I think he's an all-in type guy. I think you're going to get everything out of him.
I think the big three. I think Ted Cruz potentially. If we have time, hopefully we'll talk to him. I think he's still too new to make a big push.
Well, he can't make a big push.
What?
What?
Oh, you know what? Oh, interesting. So he was born in Canada, right?
He was born in Canada.
But he's a U.S. citizen.
He's a U.S. citizen.
Because his mother, but he was not naturalized in the United States. I forgot about that.
That's right.
But I think Marco Rubio.
And I think Marco's got a shot.
Rand Paul and Paul Ryan.
Yeah, I think Paul Ryan's going to be back around again in 2016. I
think those are the three big ones right now. I think Chris Christie kind of has shot himself in the foot. And look, I don't dislike Chris. I like Chris Christie on several different levels. We've talked about that, but he's kind of on the outs right now with the he has the conservative base is not behind him at all. But
he's almost like an East Coast Republican or Northeast Republican.
No, he is a Republican.
No, but he has to.
What are you talking about right now?
He has to go more Democrat. Oh, just hit my knee. Thank God I'm in studio. That is everyone. Wow. I just broke my elbow. I'm not kidding. That hurt like all hell.
We're gonna take a break.
Hey, this is live. You can't script this stuff. I also can't write anymore. He's a Northeast Republican where he's very liberal in a lot of his things. So
Paul Ryan. What I like about him is he's talked about the debt crisis being a quote moral failure,
right,
of the American people, which I absolutely have to agree with. I think it's immoral for us to saddle our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren with as much debt
ridiculous
as we're piling on them. And he's not the first one to say that. That goes back to even a lot of our founders. Some of our founders felt that way, which I tend to agree with. He also says, a quote here, "We have to tackle this problem before it tackles us." And I thought that was very interesting because his point is that in within the next 10 years, will be nearly $17 trillion in debt. That's going to, quote, weigh down the country like an anchor, his words, and that eventually the lenders are going to lose trust. Interest rates obviously will skyrocket. The feds are going to print or monetize, print even more money, which is also obviously going to devalue our currency and
even more
cause financial collapse. Is his position, and it's actually a pretty sound position, economically speaking. And he calls it, quote, that it would be a quote, moral failure again. So he understands the problem and the seriousness of the problem long term. I have concerns that there were some prominent Democrats that came out and basically said our president himself, how's that for a prominent Democrat, that, you know, the immediate problem. Well, how do you define immediate? Like, we're not going to collapse in the next 30 seconds? Yeah, you're right. It's not that immediate.
But how can it not be an immediate problem?
Well, because in the next 30 seconds, we're not going to collapse. That's not immediate. And so
it's going to be in the top 5 of things that will destroy our country if it's not dealt with immediately.
If it's not North Korea or the debt.
Right.
So he put, I like his budget that he put out, but there were some other speakers there as well. Paul Ryan's been pretty well covered. There were some other speakers there that we like. Should we have a listen?
Yeah, we're going to go to Marco Rubio first.
Let me just say, I love the hospitality, but this is an exaggeration. One should suffice. What's changed is the world around us. It's changed in dramatic ways. Just think how much the world has changed in the last 10 years. The global economy is real. We don't live in a national economy anymore. Everything you buy, everything you sell, everything you touch, it's all impacted by things that are happening halfway around the world. The information age is real. It's made our lives easier. It's allowed you right now to take pictures with your phones and tweet every word I say for or against me. It's changed the world and it's made our life easier. It's also changed our economy. You go into a grocery store today and you will find machines doing the job that people once used to do. You find today in many businesses that one person, because of automation, can do the work that 5 people used to do. It's the world around us that has changed. Every country in the world has rich people. Unfortunately, every country in the world has poor people, but few have the kind of vibrant, widespread middle class that America does. A widespread middle class that everyone, we have said, should have an equal opportunity to be a part of, the middle class, or even better. It sets us apart from the world. And in that light, you hear all this debate about infighting among conservatives, infighting among people that believe in limited government. That's really a foolish notion. People who disagree on all sorts of things in the real world work together all the time on things they do agree on. And there has to be a home and a movement in America for people who believe in limited government, constitutional principles, and a free enterprise system, and that should be us. The second thing that our government can help us do is help ourselves by acquiring the skills of the 21st century. And that's why I think every parent in America should have the opportunity to send their children to the school of their choice. By the way, we should encourage career education. Not everyone has to go to a 4-year liberal arts college. We still need plumbers, we still need carpenters. Why aren't we graduating more kids, not just with a high school diploma, but with an industry certification and a career, a real middle-class career?
So I was Marco Rubio at CPAC. He brought up a really good point, and this is something that I've talked with a lot of people about, and it's something that in this country, there was a big push in the 90s and the early 2000s that no matter what, you had to go to college. No matter what, you had to go to college. And Mike Rowe, I don't know if you know who Mike Rowe is. He was on Dirty Jobs and Discovered for a long time. But he's been making this huge push, and it kind of echoes what Marco Rubio says, to get people into career jobs, plumbers, electricians, jobs that pay well. You have to work hard and be carpenters and all that stuff. And I think I really liked hearing Marco Rubio say that, because I'm one of those big believers that I went to a vocational school in high school by choice. I chose to go there and learn a trade. And I think it's an experience that a lot of kids who maybe college isn't the way for them, and they get forced to go to college and they do a lousy job and they have no interest in it, and then they get out and they don't want to work in the field they have a degree in because they hated it from the word go. And I had a lot of friends that probably would have went that route.
And now they're in debt for student loans and so
forth.
Right,
that they don't want to use. And I have a lot of friends who went to the vocational school who now still work in the trade, and it's 20-something years later or whatever it is, and have a fantastic job. Some of them have their own businesses or really high-end. So I was glad to hear him say that, because I think that's something that's not highlighted enough in this country.
I agree. And if they're going into this trade and now they have their own business, like many of your friends do, they're growing the economy.
Absolutely.
They're putting in a business, they're paying those taxes, they're hiring employees, other people that are able to trade, and it grows. One of the things that I liked primarily about what he said is for parents to be able to send children to their school of their choice. And I really like that, because I enjoy the charter schools and the private schools, because I think it forces competition to the public schools. I don't have any problem with public schools. I have problems with some of the curriculum that's being taught in some of the more liberal states, obviously California being a prime example. However, I believe public schools should be run at the local level.
Right, local and state level, yeah.
Right, know what their needs are. But the fact that giving parents choice, I think what that forces is public schools to perform at a higher level.
Absolutely.
Because if parents are sending their schools, because if the public schools aren't performing at a certain level or are not conducting themselves appropriately, the parents can choose to send their child to a charter school or another school, voucher system, whatever the case may be. And that school that's not performing well is going to lose funding because they get paid per student that's there. I think that's a good thing. Why don't we want competition when it comes to our children's education?
It's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy.
We talk about the Northwest Ordinance on this show
all the time,
a fair amount. And
no, all the time.
All the time. And one of the things is, hey, look at education shall be encouraged, forever encouraged, because this religion, morality, the education is so important for a people to be able to maintain the liberties that we have.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that you would want that competition to make it better. But I understand that that competition flies directly in the face of the progressive left's idea of the administrative state, where the government and the administration of that government is responsible for that aspect, most aspects of daily life, and taking that individual choice and competition out of it, such as the free market and these other things. But I really liked what he had to say on that. I also liked what he said about the conservatives and the infighting. And I don't know that there's a lot of infighting amongst conservatives. I think there's a lot of infighting between conservatives in the Republican Party and some of the older school Republicans that have fallen into this career politician. We're playing the game, and so we've become more progressive. I have a major issue with that, and John McCain is a prime example.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a big fan of term limits for everybody, senators, House of Representatives, members, and President of the United States. Big fan of term limits. I don't think it's good for politicians to be in there as a career. I think. And
who was the last guy you just mentioned?
John McCain. Yeah, was that from his speech at CPAC?
That was I don't think he was at CPAC. I think he was.
That's weird.
I think he was having a conversation with the refrigerator. Man, he just needs to just retire. John, listen, I appreciate your service. I think it's amazing that you chose to stay in a camp longer than you needed to. I appreciate everything that you've done for this country. Arizona is a wonderful state to retire to. I've heard nothing but great things.
So's Florida.
Just go. It's okay. But nobody's going to look bad at you if you just turn in your business executive washroom privileges and just go retire and just stop effing things up all the time.
Another career politician. Again, like you said, appreciate your military service. Absolutely. You gave a lot for this country, but I don't think being a career politician should be allowed. I think that's criminal. I'm not calling him a criminal before.
No, but I understand what you're saying.
Let's get to the Rand Paul clip. I know we're about halfway through the segment already.
I was told I got 10 measly minutes. But just in case, I bought 13 hours worth of information. Well, my 13-hour filibuster was a message to the president. Good intentions are not enough. The GOP of old has grown stale and moss-covered. I don't think we need to name any names, do we? Our party is encumbered by an inconsistent approach to freedom. The new GOP will need to embrace liberty in both the economic and the personal sphere. The Facebook generation can detect falseness and hypocrisy a mile away. I know, I have kids. They are the core, though, of the Leave Me Alone coalition. They doubt Social Security will be there for them. They worry about jobs and money and rent and student loans. They want leaders that won't feed them a line of crap or sell them short. They aren't afraid of individual liberty. My 5-year budget will create millions of jobs by cutting the corporate income tax in half, by creating a flat personal income tax of 17%, and cutting the regulations that are strangling American business.
Well, you didn't wait for the applause for that? Are you kidding me?
I figured we were going to applaud.
I can't believe you cut the applause for that.
I'm sorry. You know, when I was looking at the show schedule, I figured we were going to be really tight on time tonight. I was wrong.
Look, one of the things I really enjoyed here, first of all, was making the quip about the bought 13 hours of worth of material. The outstanding job.
Great.
Great attention grabber. second of all, he said he wanted to cut the corporate income tax in half. We have one of the highest
in the world.
If not the highest, I believe.
In the world. I think we're number one right now.
In the world. And people on the left will say, well, but they have all these loopholes and you know, well, you know what? Hey, let's give them, let's cut their corporate income tax in half, like Senator Paul said, and maybe close some of those other loopholes. I would be okay with that. The other thing I like is that flat tax.
Yeah.
17%.
I can deal with that.
17%. Yeah, let's drop it to like 10, but 17. And then talking about cutting regulations, which obviously, as a conservative,
it just needs to be done.
I'm absolutely for, but I'm trying to hurry through this because we have a very important guest.
We do have a very important guest, and on the phone with us right now is Ken from the Exceptional Conservative Show. Sorry, I didn't have enough coffee tonight. Ken, how are you, buddy?
Hey, just fine. Listen, I am so glad that you all are talking about CPAC because I've been broadcasting there, been an attendee for the past couple of days, and never has so much flesh been on the floor. Beautiful women, absolutely gorgeous women.
So, are you? Hey, hang on, Ken. Now, tell the truth. Tell the truth. Did you wear that licorice thong that we sent you?
Honey, that thing is no longer a thong.
Ken, I don't want a picture.
I think that's Michael Moore in there somewhere. Just.
So now that we've established that your flesh was all over the floor,
what can you tell us? Can you give us some insight on CPAC? What do you got?
Oh yeah, listen. Rubio was good. However, his amnesty, and this is in private conversation with many of the conservatives who are walking about the floor and talking, his amnesty pitch is not getting across the plate. And many of the conservatives are very irate by the fact that he's mentioning a pathway. Senator Rand Paul put together a proposal also that talked about a flat tax, and you should have been there. The moment he mentioned it, there was a leaping to the floor of 5,000 people, and it was like standing room only, even in the media pit. He hit every single note exactly right, and he knows exactly what conservatives want to stand on in the coming election. I found only one group there, and it was a group called the Red Solution that actually was speaking to immigration reform being a matter that's handled by the businesses themselves with very little federal intervention and regulation. And I found that to be a better answer than the ones that were given during many of the immigration panels that were there. But nevertheless, there is a war right now. It's subtle, and a lot of people don't want to put it on the front pages of the Post. But the truth is that conservatives are not very happy with the GOP. Unless they get this thing routed the right way. Yeah. You can feel it here.
I have a couple questions, and there's been some subtleties, especially we kind of brought it to light last week when after Rand Paul's filibuster, he got basically scolded by other members of his party. The John McCain and hold off on the
McCain-Graham media.
So my question is twofold to you. Do you think that, and we kind of discussed this last week, do you think that there's going to be a split, a conservative party that's formed, where maybe it would pull some of the blue dog Democrats and the conservative Republicans, and maybe you have a conservative party, a Tea Party, whatever you want to call it, and then you have the old guard Republican Party and maybe a progressive party? I think some of the progressives should split off. I think that'd be a great thing, show them for who they are. And my second part of the question to you is, who do you think is going to be the rising star in the GOP come 2016? Do you think it's going to be a Marco Rubio because he can pull some of that Hispanic vote with his pathway to citizenship, or do you think it'll be like a Rand Paul who can really energize that base and probably pull some of those libertarian independents as well?
No, I think you're right on point there with both of those particular questions. questions. I think the papers were served. Yeah, that's why I listen.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ken.
But
hey, Ken. Hey,
yes.
Ken, welcome to my life. This is every day for me.
You're always right, sir. You're always. And we can end this phone call right now. There you go. We just heard it.
No, I want to get your thoughts on this. I'm curious.
No, in all seriousness, the two men who incredibly are most spoken of, one by the establishment, Senator Rubio, as the potential nominee, and those by conservatives and libertarians, Rand Paul, were back-to-back.
Mm-hmm.
Rubio received support. Of course, people were pleasant and they enjoyed some of his patriotic rhetoric. But the heart is with Rand Paul. If you can feel it, it was like, let me see. It was like Reagan entering the room. And I'm not making a comparison of he to Reagan, but the first time in 1984 when Reagan won re-election and he came into the ballroom and you could just feel everyone saying, yes, we got something here. They felt that on
electricity?
Thursday. Yeah, it was total electricity. That's been missing from the GOP since Al Gore decided not to go to Florida and really count the votes.
Well, he was busy inventing the internet.
Now, I hate the fact that the Republican establishment runs people that they think are winnable, as opposed to people that are truly principled leaders and stick to the conservative philosophy. That being
I agree with
said,
you, but can I say this real quick?
Sure.
As much as people like to say this because they're really on this get a Hispanic to be your best friend kick, the bottom line, this identity politics, adopt a Hispanic. This highway was paid by a friend of a Hispanic. The
I can't
identity.
wait till that soundbite gets replayed.
Yeah. We'll call it the
That was said by the exceptional conservative. You can listen to it Monday through. But
the views of Ken are not necessarily the views of the Sackheads Radio Show. Oh,
and listen, one of my best friends is Hispanic. So the thing is.
That was outstanding.
I love when people say that, like you're going to get a Nobel Prize for that. Anyway.
Hey, we tell people, hey, one of our biggest fans is black. We're not racist.
You see? We got his picture up on the wall.
You want his email address?
Oh my God! I'm telling you all, it is difficult to do serious talk with these guys. They are so great. So they know my heart. But in all seriousness, on this issue, Rubio is not winnable. Well, first and foremost, because he joined the Gang of Eight. You don't do that if you're conservative. Number one, and then number two. His voting for Hagel does not sit well with members of the military and conservative elite. Not very happy with him. This whole idea of trying to do identity politics is not going to work. Somebody asked me if it would be wise to have them in some type of coalition government, Rubio and Paul. No, it's good to have Rubio in the Senate, and it'd be far better to have Paul as president. But the bottom line is that you're beginning to see that the papers may be served in 2014, and if they don't win back the Senate, the divorce papers will be final in 2016. I can assure you that.
I like it. I think I would like. I tell you, I would like to see a Paul Ryan ticket.
Yeah.
Ooh. In that order, I'd like to see Rand Paul as the headline for president and Paul Ryan as the VP again, nominated.
Okay, let me tell you why that's not going to work. Ryan screwed himself this week coming ahead of CPAC releasing his budget. His budget doesn't really cut anything, and it does raise taxes. We were just told a few weeks ago by Boehner that they were signing on to the pledge to be true conservatives and not raise taxes anymore. That's not what the Ryan plan does. So whoever is going to run next year with, in 2016 with Rand Paul, so we might as well forget all the, maybe he will he will be running in 2016. Whoever's going to run with him is going to have the same type of platform. Is going to have to agree to the same principles as Rand Paul, forgive me.
I would hope so, but the reason I threw out the Paul Ryan, besides the fact that his first name starts with Rand Paul's last name, and that'd just be kind of cool. But the other reason we vote around here. The other reason I threw that out there is I think the fact that he put a budget out ahead of the Senate Democrats and talks about the balanced budget in 10 years, I think that would draw some of the more traditional Republicans that Rand Paul may not be able to get himself.
Yeah,
not
see,
the
problem with
Republicans, but like the McCain Republicans. Does that make sense?
Well, no, I think the McCain-Graham Republicans are more likely to vote for the Democrat plan of just automatically raising the taxes $1 trillion and just get it off their lap and saying that they didn't have the power to do anything. Some of the establishment have just given up. I had an interview this week with a congressman who's running for the U.S. Senate out of Georgia, and let me see what his name is. Just real quick. Let me just do this. Congressman Paul Brown, out of Georgia, and he made it very clear. There's no way that they have the votes to overturn or get rid of Obamacare, which was one of the principal things in the Ryan plan. And there's nothing there that they can do in terms of getting the Senate to do anything else but raise taxes. So the bottom line is, I believe that McCain and the McCain-Graham media will begin hopping on board a compromise agreement in which they raise taxes maybe another $500 billion and also raise the deficit ceiling and say that, if only we were a little bit more fiscally conservative and people would get along with us better, we would have a chance.
Basically, if only we had balls, we'd be able to do something else.
Yeah, but remember, you hired me and I told you I didn't have them. It's not my fault. It's your fault, voter.
Yeah, I've shown you that I haven't had balls the last 20 years. I mean, come on.
20 years.
Why are we talking about McCain? Hey. We're in that time.
Yeah,
Ken, we got a news break coming up.
We're up against the break, my friend. Thank you.
Hey,
so
Ken,
much.
wait, before you go, can you say, before you go, can you say this is the Exceptional Conservative reporting live from CPAC for Sackheads Radio?
This is the Exceptional Conservative Show reporting to you live from CPAC 2013 in Oxon Hill, Maryland. We'll be right back right after this break.
Thanks, Ken. We'll talk to you in a bit.
So much. Hey,
God bless you all. Take care.
Bye-bye. Conservative Show. Check them out.
Check them out here on Blog Talk. So now we're going to move to the news, and our good friend Vern, who does our news, is on the phone right now. Hopefully he's on the phone right now. Vern.
Yeah, this is the Rachel Maddow show? Is this the right show? I was supposed to call in to do some news, but I wasn't sure if... Is it? No?
Wrong number. Thanks for calling.
He says wrong number. Thanks for calling, Dragon. All right. Fine.
Vern, what do you have for us for the news this week?
First of all, what's coming up is the missile defense situation against North Korea. The Pentagon announced Friday that it will be spending $1 billion to add 14 interceptors to an Alaskan-based military defense system, responding to what it called the faster than anticipated North Korean progress on nuclear weapons and missiles. In announcing the decision, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel said that he is determined to protect the U.S. homeland and stay ahead of a worrisome North Korean missile threat. Now, he does acknowledge that the interceptors already are in place and that they are in place to defend against potential North Korean missile strikes that have been poorly tested lately. So just be on the lookout for that. And it looks like the senators, or a senator's shift in the GOP party concerning gay marriage has the political party doing a little bit of soul searching. Republican senators' embrace of gay marriage is the latest sign of a soul searching situation in a party that is struggling to adapt in a society whose demographics and viewers on emotional issues are changing fast. Gay marriage still divides the party, with conservative wing strongly opposing it, but an increasing number of Republicans now, including Senator Rob Portman of Ohio, are reversing the course. Many others simply downplay the subject. And it looks like the LA Times hacking situation is being questioned, whether it's a security breach or whether it was just a harmless prank. Federal prosecutors say, according to Reuters, that a deputy social media editor had conspired with a notorious hacking network to cause an online security breach that should be punished by decades in federal prison. Fever and online supporters of Matthew Keith says that the journalist was just taking part in an online prank that briefly altered the Los Angeles Times website, and he shouldn't even have this be an issue, nor should he be suspended from his job. Now, in the Vatican, it looks like criticism arising with the new pope, honeymoon that Pope Francis had once enjoyed since his remarkable election hit a major bump on Friday, with the Vatican lashing out at what it called a defamatory and anti-clerical left-wing media campaign, questioning his actions during Argentina's murderous military dictatorship. On day 2 of the Francis pontificate, the Vatican denounced news reports that in Argentina and beyond, resurging allegations that the former Jorge Moreno failed to openly confront responsibility for kidnapping and the killing of thousands of people in what they called a dirty war to eliminate leftist opponents. And it looks like finally a judge ruled in some secret FBI letters. He's ruling them unconstitutional. A federal judge has ruled that the FBI's practice of issuing so-called national security letters to banks, phone companies, and other businesses is unconstitutional, saying that the secretive demands for customer data violates the First Amendment. The FBI almost always bars recipients of the letters from disclosing anything to anyone, including customers. They say that they have even received the demands, according to the U.S. District Judge Susan Ilston, and she says that in a ruling that was released Friday. And
so wait a minute, are you telling me, Vern? Are you telling me that the FBI did something they weren't supposed to do? How did that possibly happen? It's the FBI. They never do anything wrong.
You heard that? You heard nothing from. Look, I just report the news.
Okay, fine. Ladies and gentlemen, Vern reporting the news for us tonight. Thank you so much, Vern.
Thanks, Vern.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a minute with Sackheads Radio. It's not like the FBI would ever do anything like that, would they? Would they?
There again, Cynthia Tucker. I really.
Oh, hold on. There we go. What are you looking at me like that for?
I'm not looking at you.
Hey, if you care about what's going on in the world, you cannot afford to miss my show. Hi, this is Andrea Kaye, your host of The Andrea Kaye Show. It's not always about the money. Okay, it is always about the money, but it's also about politics, pop culture, and you. The only thing street about this show is the smarts. There's a reason they call me Dynamite in a Dress. And you'll find out why when you listen Tuesday mornings at 10 on Financial News and Talk.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the wingnut leaders throughout the world, to give our men and women of the armed forces a job, as well as all the anarchists, terrorists, and Occupy folks that give our men and women in uniform on the home front, firefighters, law enforcement personnel, and first responders, job security here in the States as well. So thank all you wingnuts out there. This is Sackhead Clint saying have a good day.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
Welcome back to the Friday Night Fiasco with Clint and Sean, Sackheads Radio.
What was that?
I don't know.
Hey, we only have
Hey, was Barry White in here? Who was that?
Who was that handsome man?
Wow.
So, I don't know if you heard this week, but there was some sort of debate regarding something.
Well, hang on a second.
What?
Are you going to talk about the Cruz missile taking down Diane Frankenstein?
Yes.
Nailed it.
And I, as much as I want to talk about that, I also want to talk about the media reaction, because I laughed that he presented a question, you're going to hear it in a minute, that was very intelligent. And it's something that we've done on this show numerous times. We've related the Second Amendment and how they're approaching it to other amendments.
Mm-hmm.
And he essentially gets laughed out, and the mainstream media was just all over it for him. And we'll get into this.
Let's play it.
Let's play the clip itself, though.
If I might pose a question to the senior senator from California. In your response to Senator Cornyn, you mentioned that there's some 100 pages of the bill that specify particular firearms that if this bill were passed, Congress would have deemed prohibited. It seems to me that all of us should begin as our foundational document with the Constitution. And the Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights provides that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The term, the right of the people, when the framers included it in the Bill of Rights, they used it as a term of art. That same phrase, the right of the people, is found in the First Amendment, the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition their government for redress of grievances. It's also found in the Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. And the question that I would pose to the senior senator from California is, would she deem it consistent with the Bill of Rights for Congress to engage in the same endeavor that we are contemplating doing with the Second Amendment in the context of the First or Fourth Amendment? Namely, would she consider it constitutional for Congress to specify that the First Amendment shall apply only to the following books and shall not apply to the books that Congress has deemed outside the protection of the Bill of Rights? Likewise, would she think that the Fourth Amendment's protection against searches and seizures could properly apply only to the following specified individuals and not to the individuals that Congress has deemed outside the protection of the bill of rights.
Senator, you have a question?
Let me just make a couple of points in response. One, I'm not a sixth grader. Senator, I've been on this committee for 20 years. I was a mayor for 9 years. I walked in, I saw people shot. I've looked at bodies that have been shot with these weapons. I've seen the bullets that implode. In Sandy Hook, youngsters were dismembered. Look, there are other weapons. I've been I'm not a lawyer, but after 20 years, I've been up close and personal to the Constitution. I have great respect for it. This doesn't mean that weapons of war, and the Heller decision clearly points out 3 exceptions, 2 of which are pertinent here. And so it's fine you want to lecture me on the Constitution. I appreciate it. Just know I've been here for a long time. I've passed on a number of bills. I've studied the Constitution myself. I am reasonably well educated, and I thank you for the lecture. Incidentally, this does not prohibit, you use the word prohibit, it exempts 2,271 weapons. Isn't that enough for the people in the United States?
Mr.
Do
Chairman?
they need a bazooka? Do they need other high-powered weapons that military people use to kill in close combat? I don't think so. So I come from a different place than you do. I respect your views. I ask you to respect my views.
Now, a couple things on that. First of all, if she really were a student of the Constitution and really knew the Constitution, I think a more appropriate response to Senator Cruz would have been, well, Senator Cruz, your example about the First Amendment is invalid because, as you should know, the First Amendment says specifically that Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of blah, 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 which would outright prohibit us from doing so in that. But what's a Fourth Amendment argument? Or he could have put another argument in play there. That's my first point. Second point, she said something very interesting. She said that, well, you keep using the word prohibit. It doesn't, we exempt 2,000 whatever firearms. Okay, so you are exempting firearms from a law, which means if you can exempt them, you can ban them later on. Why are they exempt? You don't have to exempt any firearms. It's not your place. The Second Amendment, we've been through that. That's not the purpose of the Second Amendment. And then she asks, she of course paraded Sandy Hook again, of course. She says, do people need a bazooka? Well, yeah.
Do they need military-style weapons?
They might need a military-style weapon because guess what? If the militia is called up, and no, ladies and gentlemen, that is not just the National Guard. The National Guard is the formal militia. The informal militia consists of the people, and that's a different show if you want to check that show. It was a couple months ago we talked about it. But yes, that militia, the people, can be called into service and do need to have military-style weapons in order to defend the homeland as well as protect against a tyrannical government. Not saying that this administration or this government is that government, but governments can become tyrannical, and so the Second Amendment is in there to protect the people from that overpowering government. Another thing she said, she's been there for 20 years. Guess what? That's too stinking long.
Yeah, there's a reason.
And I know the Constitution. I'm not a lawyer. You don't have to be a lawyer to know the Constitution.
No, I wish less lawyers were in Congress. That's why these bills that keep getting passed are all screwed up.
I could give the Constitution to a 12-year-old, and they can read it and understand it pretty easily.
Well, and she brought up the Moscone Milk assassinations, where she was the board president in San Francisco, and she said, I've seen what these weapons can do. I've gone in and I've seen people murdered by them, and that's what she's referring to is when she discovered the bodies of Moscone and Milk, who was shot by board supervisor Dan White back in 1978. The weird part is the weapon that was used in that was a revolver. It wasn't an assault rifle. It wasn't a bazooka, as she liked to say. It wasn't a shot. It was a revolver. So for her to say that she has seen what those weapons can do and then try to affiliate to that is completely bunk. I don't know if she's seen the weapons, the pictures from Sandy Hook. I don't know. But her whole argument is meaningless.
It's an emotional-based argument as opposed to an argument founded in fact and Constitution and the Constitution as a basis of law. Here's the thing: has she ever been to an accident scene where she's seen fatality?
I don't know.
Fatal victims at an accident.
Plane crash.
What about a stabbing?
Right.
What about what was it? Liston?
An axe murder.
Yeah. What about an axe? Are there not other things that do bad things to people?
Right.
Of course there are, but that doesn't get brought up. Instead, she basically makes this big show of, I've been here for 20 years and you're basically just a junior senator, so sit over there, little boy, and be quiet. You know what? That junior senator asked you a legitimate question, and it's a question that I wish your constituents would ask you.
I get so sick of the whole, well, he's the freshman senator and there's a certain protocol, but no. He gets elected by his people to represent in Senate, rather, and that's his job, and he's doing his job. Then he got slammed by a lot of people all the way around, including Cuckoo Clock, and he was on Cavuto today answering that, and this is Senator Cruz on Neil Cavuto on Fox.
It's great to be with you. Listen, other senators can choose to hurl whatever insults they like my direction. I have no intention of reciprocating. 26 million people in Texas expect me to come here every day and represent them, and in particular to raise the sorts of questions that I raised at that hearing, which is, what are the limits of the Constitution? And I got to tell you, there are a lot of politicians in Washington, both Democrats and Republicans, who have lost sight of the constitutional limitations. I have to tell you, the reaction at the Judiciary Committee hearing when I raised the textual limitations of the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights, those reactions were reminiscent to Nancy Pelosi's reaction when she was asked, where in the Constitution is the authority for Obamacare? And her answer was, quote, are you serious? Are you serious?
So, and, you know, he even got cred for being, again, Cuckoo Clock, and it never ends. And he shouldn't have to go on and defend like this. He shouldn't have to, but he did. And why? Because he's the freshman senator, or he was out of line, or who is he to talk to her like that? And he doesn't know what he's talking about.
But at least he's defending. He's not just laying down and saying, yeah, well, gosh.
Right.
He's standing up and saying, no, this is my job.
But one of the things that he said that I love is, you know what? Other senators can throw out insults. I'm not getting involved in that. That's not what I do. So if they want to do that, that's fine, but that's not what's going on here. So finally, we get to our favorite person to be at ideological war with. You want to talk?
Call in tonight?
No, and we tweeted him, but he still wouldn't call in, which is fine. Here is Chris Matthews' rant about Ted Cruz, and if I explode by the end of this, you'll know.
There again, Cynthia Tucker, I really want your thoughts and feelings of this. I don't understand how people can elect somebody like Ted Cruz. Here's a guy so far right, so unlimited in his notion of the Second Amendment that anyone should be able to have any kind of gun, and anybody that says you can't have any kind of gun is somehow limiting their rights under his view of the Constitution. In other words, Matt Dillon, Wyatt Earp, anybody ever said leave your gun out of town on the way into town had to be stopped in their tracks because his view of the Constitution is the bad guys, the guys in the gangs, they had a right to carry their guns anywhere they wanted, any kind of gun they could get their hands on. And then he challenges a grown-up again, Dianne Feinstein, who I have enormous respect for, who watched her mayor die right in front of her, who's dealt with criminal matters her whole career. She's an expert on criminality, and have her lectured to by this far-out character. Your view of what this has come to, this gun discussion. I think it's so polarized between the middle, reasonable middle, and the far right, it's hopeless.
Because he's not
That's all I hear with him.
Because he's not, because he's so reasonable. He's so middle ground.
Oh, yeah, just middle of the road.
Yeah,
he's certainly, you know, I love how he's like, Dianne Feinstein, a grown-up, insinuating that Senator Cruz is not a grown-up. He's still a United States senator, you douchebag.
He's an idiot.
He kills me.
So anybody that wants to ban any kind of gun is somehow infringing.
Yeah.
So what if they wanted to ban certain attorneys from defending you, or ban certain laws that you could be defended from?
What if they ban fat, stupid, bad haircutted, loudmouth pundits from speaking their mind on CNN?
But at a state level, because the Constitution they can't do it federally.
Right. Exactly. Then where would he go?
Nowhere.
Oh.
Do you think we could ship him to
North Korea?
No, I was gonna say, although that'd be good. But let's put like a cross around his neck and ship him to Ahmadinejad.
Ahmadinejad would love him.
No, because he'd have a cross around his neck.
No,
so
Ahmadinejad would love him because he knows there's a TV camera near him, and Ahmadinejad loves to be on television. And you know what? I'm sure the amount of gun control they have in Iran, Chris Matthews would love Ahmadinejad.
And he would probably
because that government has total control over its people, and Matthews is a big fan of that.
He's a huge fan of that. And I think, where else can we send him?
Oh, I get the Antarctica, and I'll tell you why.
Go.
Don't give him a jacket,
mm-hmm.
and no, just leave it at that.
No, because you know why? He'd be able to live off of his body stores forever. What if we send him to Putin?
Ooh, but again, Putin loves to be the center of attention. We've seen the pictures of him shirtless hunting and all that stuff.
Yeah, but Putin does not like that crying sound. I think even Putin would be like...
Yeah, Putin, old KGB, though, total control. I think he would get along.
Interesting.
I would like to send him...
I think Chris Matthews walking into the Reagan Library would be the equivalent of... Go ahead. That'd be like Ted Bundy walking into a church.
Yes.
Right?
It would just the roof would just blow off of it.
Right. Not saying that Chris Matthews is a killer.
No, absolutely not.
Unless it's, the ideas of anybody other than himself.
God. All that because, and that's how you know Seuss got to them. He asked a question that there was no defense. And by the way, he had to go back.
That question was like the kick at the end of the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
The first
crane
no
kick.
defense.
The crane kick. Sweep the leg, Johnny. He had to go back and ask and point out the fact that she never answered
the question.
And she eventually was like, no, of course not. You can't do that. Oh, okay. All right. So
why can't we do it here?
Right. And then, of course, the mainstream Maddow, even Joe Scarborough, all those, and all the Rhino Republicans they all went after him. Why? Because he asked a legitimate question, because he pushed back, because he's not entrenched in this Washington elite that has been there for 20-plus years. He went in and asked a hard question and demanded an answer and wouldn't back down, even though he was some freshman, which, by the way, isn't that hazing? Wouldn't that be hazing to treat him like that because he's a freshman?
And she did it. Her last name is Cruz.
Absolutely.
So obviously she's racist. Because... What? Because she doesn't like Hispanic senators from Texas.
Apparently not.
And she's white, if I'm not mistaken.
She's
white from California.
Green.
Well-to-do.
She's green, I think.
She's green. Okay.
The Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Maybe she needs a little bit more sun.
Huh.
Hey, listen. Look, we got to wrap up the show.
I don't want to.
I don't want to
go
either.
on Frankenstein.
I know, but
she's not really racist. But isn't that what the left would do if the roles were reversed?
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Matthews would be the first one saying, "Guys said you can't say Chicago because it's racist." You know what I mean? If this guy was any further in the president's pockets, he'd be finding dry cleaning.
Really,
tickets.
you were going to say in the pockets? I thought you were going to say something a little more soft.
He does get a twinge up his leg from this president, so who knows?
And down his throat.
And I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
And down his throat.
Yes. What?
No, because he's swallowing his own words. He's eating crow with some of the stupid
So we'll
stuff
see you next Friday night at the same time, 10:30 Pacific. Check out our website, sackheadsradio.com. We're on Twitter at Sackheads. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/sackheadsradio. Also check out the Exceptional Conservative Show on Blog Talk Radio. Go to exceptionalconservativeshow.com. Thank you to our good friend Ken for calling in tonight.
Don't forget, check out Hillsdale College and their free online courses, Constitution 101, Constitution 201, as well as their 2 free history courses they have.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth your time, and we will close tonight's show with a Constitution Minute. We'll see you next Friday night. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lori, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Dr. Larry Arnn on how the founders viewed God as the source of our equality and legal rights.
America's founders knew, obviously, that human beings are not equal in terms of strength or beauty, or in terms of intelligence, industry, or talents. They understood that because of such differences in talents and things like that, some people will be wealthier than others. But human beings are equal, the founders believe, in their possession of natural rights, such as the rights to life, liberty, and property. Today, many Americans reject this equality of rights in order to pursue equality of condition through redistribution, or spreading the wealth around, to use a famous formulation. This is destructive of liberty as the founders understood it.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.